Let me start off by saying that I am by far no voice of authority when it comes to making masks, pulling masks, foam filling, any of this stuff. I'm simply just a novice at this. This video is going to be more like a documentation of the process that I do when painting and pulling a mask. So the techniques that I use in this video you're going to see are techniques that I've picked up along the way from people like Alan Hops, Richard Teachout, Mitch over at Biddy Mold Supply. So hopefully this video will be of some use to you guys if you're getting into this. Like I said, I'm new at this. These techniques that I've found are user-friendly, I guess is the best way to describe it. So for somebody starting out like myself, these techniques worked really well for me, I thought, for not being very used to doing all these different things. So anyway, hope this helps you guys out, and I'll see you again at the end of the video. Alright guys, we're going to do a video today on trimming and painting a latex mask. I got my helpers here today, Olivia and Samantha. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull this head out of this mold. And Olivia, what's the first thing we got to do when we're pulling a head out of a mold?
Put baby powder in it.
What was the baby powder for?
So it doesn't stick to itself.
There you go. Gosh, you're smart. Stuff that feels like it won't stick to each other. Can you do that? Stick your arm all the way in there?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I see the eyeball. Where? Look at it.
Alright, now that we pulled our heads and our mask out of our molds, the first thing we've got to do is clean up the seam from the two-piece mold. And that's really easy to do. The only thing you really need is a Dremel with a buffing wheel on it, some mineral spirits, and a clean rag. Alright, so when you're cleaning up your seam here, one thing you want to be careful of is not to stretch or distort the latex as you're buffing it, because as you do that, you're going to start to get divots and stuff like that. So if you try to leave it in the most natural position as you can as you do it. I try to do about, 3 or 4 inches at a time, and using the buffing tip. And I probably use it on about a speed of, we're at about 15. And I try to go in a circular motion instead of just in a line. Otherwise, you might end up with a nice solid line there. Then just using a rag with some mineral spirits on it, just wipe away all this. I guess it's kind of like the burnt latex, melted latex from the heat of the Dremel coming off there. So you see that? Pretty much disappears when you do that. So now we'll do the whole thing. It gets a little tricky when you get up towards the ears. Spots like that, you can't help but pull it apart and to get down in there and stuff. So, but yeah, we'll do the whole thing, and we'll get some of these other little boogers and stuff trimmed off and cleaned up. Alright, clean up their seam all the way around, and that looks pretty good. A lot of that will disappear once you paint it and everything. The only thing left I got to do is, there's like some little pieces like this that there's some air bubbles that were in the mold that we just got to cut off, and do the same thing with the buffing wheel, just get those off. So what I use are just some cuticle scissors here, and I'll cut the main chunk of that off carefully, and then I'll go back and buff those out. Another thing, when you're doing your seams and stuff like that, you might run into some air pockets and stuff like that, which you'll have to go back in and fill. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just some random stuff here and there that we just got to clean up and get rid of. So that's it. Alright, so we got our seams all trimmed up, everything buffed out, as you can see here on both of these. The next step is to just trim off all the extra flashing and all that stuff. This particular one I've already went ahead and did. Cut the eyes out because I'm using these Reborn eyes. Plastic eyeballs. They're 24 millimeter, and they work pretty good, and I like the way they finish off the head. So basically all I use is a pencil, and I hand eyeball it where I want to cut it off, and then I just use regular old, scissors. To cut out the eyes, I just use an X-Acto knife, and again these cuticle cutters, which work really well. So I didn't bother filming that because it's cutting latex. It's not that big a deal. So hopefully the whole buffing of the seams, cleaning those up was enough. It's pretty self-explanatory. You do this much of it, it's the same operation all the way around. So yeah, next step is we'll get this one cleaned up. We got number 3 here all done, ready to go, and then I guess we can start doing a base coat. All right, we got our heads all trimmed up, we got the flashing cut off, we got the eyes cut out, and I think we're all ready to do the base coat. This process is something that has been around a long time. Ed Edmonds, Alan Hops, they all use this same setup here. So what we're going to use is, grab this, some cheap interior latex paint. This is an Oops paint that came from Walmart. It's kind of like a flesh color. We're going to use 1/3 of that mixed with 1/3 of latex. This is like just general purpose, makeup latex. I could also use the stuff that I use to cast these things with, but it doesn't really matter. So 1/3 of that, and then 1/3 of distilled water. So 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3 to mix up. I already got some pre-mixed over here that I here it is, flesh base, and I have a bunch of other colors and stuff that I keep on hand. These little condiment jar bottles work really good for that. So yeah, so we're going to base those out, and I'm going to base them out with the cheapo Allen Hops Harbor Freight airbrush. That thing works really good. I got one of these guys here that I could use, but it's only 4 heads, so I think for that, this little guy here will work just fine. All right, when I start painting out stuff, I try to get into all the crevices that are kind of hard to get to. If I started painting, the big areas, and then I try to go and do these little fine-tuned places, it will you'll have a tendency to get runs and stuff like that. So just because you'll have too much paint going on it. So I usually try to hit like the back of the ears first. Inside the ears, and this is just the base coat, so it's not super critical. So we'll go through, we'll get the eyes and the mouth and the inside the nose and stuff like that, and just keep going from there. Alright, so now that the base coat's done, the next thing we're going to do is add some veins. All I'm using is this Caribbean blue. I mean, you can use like a purple, red, whatever color you want your vein. And I'm going to do the same thing with 1/3 paint, 1/3 liquid latex, and 1/3 distilled water. One thing I like to use are these little syringes. If you have little kids that you have to administer medicine, you get these from like CVS or whatever, and then we just always save them. So these things work really good for measuring out pretty precise. So I'll do about 1 milliliter, I guess it would be 1 milliliter of each of the paint, the latex, and the water. Now, I've always been told to keep it to a consistency of runny milk. So that should be good. Alright, so I've done the veins and stuff on these other 3 heads. I'm going to do this last one next. The veins kind of look pretty overpronounced right now, and that's okay. That's kind of what I wanted to do, because the next step is we're going to do a wash coat over top of it, and those veins will kind of start to disappear a little bit, so they won't be so pronounced. So basically all I do is just do squigglies where I think veins would be. I don't do veins on the face, but I'll do them here, like on the neck, up here in the temple area, all over the head, and on the back shoulder area. All right, so like I said, some of these veins are pretty pronounced right now and look a little gaudy, but once we do the wash coat, they just kind of fade away a little bit. So put the camera back up here. Next, we're going to do the wash coat, and what I'm doing is I just use, this is just the acrylic paint. This is burnt ember, and I'm just mixing it 50-50 with distilled water and the paint, and that's it. And I got it right here. It's really runny. We're just going to coat the entire thing, and then we're just going to dab it off with the rag, and that will, let me grab one over here. That'll give us this detail like that. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, so now with my Harbor Freight airbrush and the 50-50 mix, I'm just going to do a wash coat and then wipe it away. Actually, not going to wipe it away. We're going to dab it away, because if you wipe, you're going to get, like, you know, the streaks and stuff like that, which you don't want. So hopefully you guys will see here. I'm going to try to move kind of fast, because the longer it sits on there, the more it's going to start to dry. And I don't want to have one side done and then the other side starting to dry up, and then it'll be darker on one side than the other, if that makes sense. So I'll try to get in the ears and stuff like that, because I'm going to come back and hit all the spots with the airbrush later on. So I just want to make sure I get around the ears pretty good, and then just dab away quickly, fighting the urge to wipe. We don't want to wipe, we want to dab. Fun stuff, huh? All right, so we got the wash coats done. One situation I ran into that I haven't ran into before, the temperature is like mid-90s here, and my paint was drying a lot faster than I could, get it the wash coat off. So I was getting real splotchy spots on it. So that, and I think my 50-50 ratio of paint to water, it probably should have been a little bit more water than paint. So what I had done was I grabbed just a water bottle and sprayed it down, and rubbed out the areas that were an issue, and was just able to go back and do it again. So I don't know if you can see this, but those veins that looked really pronounced before are kind of hidden a little bit, which is what we're going for, which is why we did the veins before the wash coat. So now our next step is we're going to start doing some shadowing. We're going to take just some black, same mixture of black acrylic, 1/3 latex, 1/3 black acrylic, and 1/3 distilled water, and we're just going to hit like the eye sockets and a lot of the shadowing areas, the jawline, stuff like that. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, so like I said, we're just going to do like around the eyes, anywhere there's a shadow and stuff like that, and just kind of, this is where I don't have much experience in, so this is like one of those things you just got to play around with and try yourself. So we're just going to hit the eyes and stuff like that, and not go too crazy, hopefully. See that? Kind of looks like a black eye right now, but hopefully it'll blend out. We're gonna do some other colors too. We're gonna do some purples and stuff like that. So, but all right, next up we're going to do some purple. This is not an actual acrylic color. It's a mix-up between some purple and red. Again, 1/3 paint, 1/3 liquid latex, and 1/3 distilled water. And basically what we're going to do around the eyes, the tongue, some other various splotches on the head and stuff like that, just to give it a little bit of color. All right, next up we got this Honeysuckle Pink. Again, 1/3 paint, 1/3 latex, 1/3 distilled water. And all we're going to use this for is around the eyelids and just a little bit on the lip here. All right, last we got Tuscan Red. Once again, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit all the wound areas just to give it a base, because then we're gonna go back over with some like perma-blood or something and get the blood effect. But having a red base will really make that, that blood pop. So right now I am painting the teeth, and I'm doing this by hand. Obviously. I'm just using regular old acrylic paint. This is ivory, and I've tried doing it with the airbrush. I'm just not that good yet. I get the that hazy overspray around the edges, so I feel like I get a better job just doing it by hand. It's a little bit more tedious, but the result is better, I think. This is actually step 1 of 3 that I do on the teeth. And obviously we'll be getting to the other steps here shortly. Alright, we've got our teeth all painted up, and they look pretty ridiculous with as white as they are. Kind of look like a Fix-It commercial or something like that. But anyway, so now we're going to make them a little bit yellow. And what I found to work really good is good old amber shellac. And all I do with it is take some and basically just paint it right on the teeth. I might do a couple layers of it, you know, get kind of splotchy and stuff like that. So yeah, this stuff works pretty good. I have no idea why I'm out here messing with this stuff today. It's hot. Alright, so the amber shellac is dry on the teeth, you can see there. Couple last things we have left to do is something I saw Alan House do on a live feed one time, is use this Plasti-Dip glossifier. And basically all I do is hit the eye sockets and inside the mouth, and it gives it that, that wet look. So I'm just going to give these just a few little squirts. Careful not to do too much and get a run. Get that tongue in there. I'm just going to dab off the eyebrows here where I didn't really want too much going on. So we'll let that set up, and then next we'll glue in the eyeballs, and then we'll do the blood, and we'll do some foam filling. So that's pretty much it. All right, next up we're going to glue in our eyeballs. I like to use these 24mm Reborn eyes that you get off of eBay. I think they're probably like, I don't know, $5-6 for a pair. There are cheaper ones out there. You can find some like this. They come from China. You get like, I don't know, a dozen of them for just a couple bucks. But you can see the quality of those things there. These ones look a lot more realistic. So anyway, we're going to glue these things using my high-tech jig, which is nothing more than a piece of wood with a nut hot glued on the end of it. These eyeballs have this little post on the back which sits nicely on there and just holds it in place until the glue sets up. For the glue, we're using E6000, and basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and just give a couple little dabs for now on the inside, obviously, top and bottom here, and then very carefully set the whole head over top of the eyeball and just let the weight of the mask or the head hold it in place until it sets up good. So I don't know if I can do this on camera or not. We're going to try it. So I am doing the right eye first, and basically I'm just putting a couple dabs right up against that eyelid. I'm not going too crazy because I don't want the glue to get on the eyeball itself. Okay. So this is kind of like a one-shot deal if you don't want to get glue all over your eye. So I'm going to get it lined up good. want my head to turn a little bit here, so I'm going to get some stuff just to push up against the head. Alright, so now we got our eyes glued in. Once they are tacked in there and they got set and dried and everything, I went back with some more ETH 6000. You're not going to be able to see this, but I basically went around both of the eyeballs basically to seal it up. That way, so when we pour the foam in here, it doesn't start to leak out through the corners of the eyes or anything, because I had that happen on the first one I did, and it really messed things up. So if you do glue in eyes and you're going to foam fill it, you want to make sure you get the eyes sealed all the way around. So next step we're going to do is just do the blood, and I'm not going to record that because it's pretty self-explanatory. You put blood on it, and I'm going to basically brush it into all the wounds and stuff like that. Then I'll do some splatter and runs and stuff like that. And I got a few different options. This is a haunt sauce from Rip City Effects. Is a permanent blood. Of course, perma blood. Everybody knows about that. And then I also have some. This is from Asylum Props. Some of Richard Teachout's stuff. So yeah, some different options. It's all good stuff. So I'm going to put on the blood, and then once that dries up, then we'll foam fill them. Alright, now we're going to foam fill our heads, and what I'm going to be using is this F3 polyfoam from Biddy Mold Supply. It's a 2-part mold, and it mixes 1 part A to 2 part B by weight, and that's important. Mixing by weight and by volume is 2 different things. So to do it by weight, we have to have a scale. This is one I got from Harbor Freight for like, I don't know, 20 bucks or something like that. So I've already been doing a couple of heads so far. So we're going to just measure out what we got. First thing we do is put a cup on here, and then we got to zero it out. See, right now it says 0.15 ounces, so we're going to zero that out. And one of my heads takes about 8 ounces, 8 ounces of B to 4 ounces of A, but I'm not going to do it all in one shot. I like to do it in increments. So I'm going to start by doing 3 ounces of B to 1.5 of A. So I'm going to get these things poured up here quickly, and it's very important to get it pretty much dead on if you can. Well, you have to. it's you want to get it precise measurement. If I can get that to 3, we'll be golden. If I went to 3.05, we would be okay. Get that little drip in there. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right, so there's our 3 ounces of B. Now we're going to do 1.5 of A, because 1.5 times 2 would be 3, right? So we'll do 1.5 of A. Whoa, easy, easy. This stuff is a lot more runnier. And when you mix the 2 together, you want to go, oh shit, a little bit over. That's okay. You want to pour your A into the B, because the A is a lot more runny. So we got our 2 parts here, so this is all ready to go. I'm not gonna be able to grab the camera, mix it, and dump it in here. So I'm just going to mix this up real quick, and then I'm gonna jump off screen or off camera and dump it in my head, and then next time around I'll do another one. So, all right. So this stuff has about 15 seconds before you need to pour it, before it starts kicking off. So I'm going to dump that in here. Make sure I get all that. Time is kicking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm going to go a little faster on this one because I want to slosh it around. Make sure we get all the nooks and crannies. And this one already had 3 ounces in it, so this is another 3 ounces, which will make it 6. And if I remember correctly, 8 ounces does a head, so we'll have 2 more to go. So now quickly slosh that around as before it starts to set up, which it's setting up right now. I'll make sure I get back down in those crevices and stuff. There. You can see it starting to set already, so that's pretty much it. Just obviously you want to wear gloves. You also want to be careful not to get any of the foam. You don't want to get the A or the B on your hands and then touch the outside of your head, because then that stuff just won't come off. So yeah, might switch it over to this side now. Actually, I might not even need another batch of foam. That looks pretty good right there. Well, we killed a lot of cups, and of course we can't do anything without having an accident. As you can see, I had one of my heads fall off just as I poured it, and stupid me is because I used this teeny little binder clip. These ones here, those work good. These ones, tiny little things, not so good. Alright guys, gonna do it for this episode. Hopefully you guys found some stuff in this this video that was helpful. I was gonna get into doing the hair and everything, and then my neighbor across the street decided he was gonna start weed whacking, so I got annoyed and I said, you know what, this video is long enough, so we will do that in another upcoming video, so hopefully sooner than later. You guys got questions, comments, or anything, you know the drill, leave them down below. And yeah, I think that's it, so I think it's Miller time. See ya.